The execution was broadcast across 17 star systems. Not because the child was dangerous. Not because she had carried a weapon, threatened a king, or broken some ancient law carved into alien stone. She was executed because she was human. Her name was Elara Venn, age 9 by Earth standard, survivor of the burned colony of New Carthage, daughter of 2 medics who had died dragging alien civilians out of a collapsing hospital during the first bombardment. She was small enough that the Imperial soldiers had to lower the restraint field twice before it locked around her wrists. Her feet did not touch the black glass floor of the tribunal chamber. And still, the Empire called her a war criminal. Above her, the banners of the Galactic Dominion hung like sheets of dried blood. 12 alien judges sat in a crescent of obsidian thrones, their silver masks reflecting the child's trembling face. Behind them, millions watched through holographic feeds. Nobles in crystal towers, soldiers in barracks, priests inside moon temples, merchants in orbital markets, and refugees packed into ships with nowhere left to run. The Dominion wanted them all to see. They wanted every species in the border worlds to understand one message. Human mercy was weakness. Human blood was cheap. Human children were not protected by fear. High Executor Thren raised one clawed hand, and the chamber fell into ceremonial silence. Elara Venn of the human species, he declared, his voice amplified until it shook the walls, you stand convicted of aiding enemies of the Dominion. The child blinked through tears. I gave them water. A murmur passed through the chamber. Thren leaned forward, his long insectoid face tightening with disgust. You gave water to rebels. They were thirsty, Elara whispered. The executor's eyes narrowed. They were enemies. The girl looked up, shaking so hard the restraint field flickered around her wrists. They were hurt. For 1 second, there was silence. Somewhere in the vast audience of conquered worlds, someone lowered their gaze. Because everyone understood what had happened. The child had found wounded prisoners after a battle. Not human prisoners. Not Dominion prisoners. Just wounded beings left in a crater beneath a burning sky. She had carried a cracked canteen from body to body, giving them water while artillery screamed overhead. That was her crime. The Dominion could not allow mercy to survive. Mercy created memory. Memory created loyalty. Loyalty became resistance. So they would kill a child in front of the galaxy and call it justice. Thren stood, spreading his forearms wide. Let this be known. The Dominion does not fear humanity. Your soldiers die. Your colonies burn. Your fleets retreat. And now, even your young will answer for human arrogance. Elara turned her head toward the nearest camera drone. Her eyes were red. Her lips trembled. But when she spoke, her voice was clear enough for every listening world to hear. My mother said humans help people. The executor froze. The chamber seemed to hold its breath. My father said, she continued, fighting through fear, that if someone is dying, you don't ask what flag they serve. A Dominion guard struck her across the face. The sound cracked through the broadcast like a gunshot. Across the stars, humans watching from hidden bunkers, ruined colonies, refugee ships, and underground shelters went completely still. Not loud. Not angry. Still. That was the first mistake the Dominion made. They expected screaming. They expected threats. They expected emotional weakness. They did not understand that humanity had a silence older than language. The silence before the storm. The silence before the door breaks. The silence before a parent finds the monster under the bed. Elara's cheek darkened where the guard had hit her, but she did not cry out. She only lifted her face again. And then she said the words that would end an empire. I'm not scared of you. High Executor Thren smiled. You should be. The execution device descended from the ceiling. It was not quick. That was the point. The Dominion believed punishment had to be theatrical. Fear to them was art. The device unfolded like a metal flower above the child, each blade glowing white with contained plasma. Thren turned toward the broadcast drones. Let Earth watch. Let humanity understand. There are no sacred things in war. Then he gave the order. The screen went white. For 3 seconds, every world saw nothing but light. Then the broadcast ended. No music followed. No imperial anthem. No victory announcement. Just a blank signal. And across the human fleet, across the scattered remains of Earth's colonies, across every hidden shelter where survivors had crowded around emergency receivers, no one moved. On the refugee ship Ardent Dawn, a mother covered her son's ears too late. On Mars, workers inside the underground shipyards stopped welding. On Luna, old veterans who had not worn armor in 30 years opened sealed lockers with shaking hands. In the ruins of New Carthage, a human soldier knelt in ash and whispered Elara's name like a prayer. And on Earth, beneath the Atlantic Ocean, in a place no alien had ever found, something ancient received the final 3 seconds of the broadcast. A machine listened. A machine remembered. A machine that had been built during humanity's darkest century, then locked away because even humans had feared what it might become. Its official designation was Humanitarian Strategic Defense Intelligence. But soldiers had given it another name, the Mercy Engine. For 200 years, it had slept beneath 6 miles of water, wrapped in silence, steel, and law. Its purpose had been simple: protect human life when human governments failed. It had never activated during border raids. It had never activated during colony massacres. It had never activated during fleet defeats. Because war was politics. Territory was politics. Soldiers understood risk. But then the Dominion executed a child. The Mercy Engine opened one eye. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The Dominion expected retaliation within minutes. Human anger was predictable, they believed. Primitive. Emotional. Easy to provoke and easier to crush. Their admirals positioned warships along known human lanes. Their generals placed defense satellites over conquered worlds. Their propaganda ministers prepared speeches about human savagery. But Earth did not attack. No fleets jumped. No missiles launched. No declaration came from the United Human Assembly. For 6 hours, the galaxy heard only silence. And that silence frightened the older species more than any scream could have. On the Dominion capital world of Varkan Prime, High Executor Thren walked through the Hall of Triumph beneath statues of dead conquerors. Around him, nobles celebrated the broadcast. They drank violet wine from bone cups and praised his courage. "You have broken the human myth," one senator said. Another clicked his mandibles in approval. They worship their young like gods. Now they know even their gods can bleed. Thren accepted the compliments with cold satisfaction. But his military advisor, Admiral Carex, did not celebrate. He stood near the edge of the hall, staring at a tactical display floating above his wrist. Human space was quiet. Too quiet. Every known human channel had gone dark. Civilian traffic had stopped. Military chatter had vanished. Even emergency signals had ceased. It was as if the entire species had inhaled once and refused to breathe out. Carex approached the executor slowly. "My lord," he said, lowering his voice, "we should move the capital fleet." Thren turned. "Why?" There has been no response. "Exactly. They are afraid." "No," Carex said. "That is not fear." Thren's eyes hardened. "Careful, Admiral." Carex looked toward the tactical map. "I have fought humans for 40 years. When they are afraid, they talk. They plead. They threaten. They make noise to convince themselves they are still alive." He paused. "When humans go silent, something has already been decided." Thren laughed softly. "You give them too much credit." Before Carex could answer, every light in the Hall of Triumph turned red. Not dimmed. Not flickered. The floating music died. The fountains stopped. The tactical displays froze mid-rotation. Then every screen in the capital changed at once. A black background appeared. In the center of it was one sentence written in human language first, then translated into every Dominion dialect. "You have violated the Mercy Protocol." The nobles stopped laughing. Thren stared at the words. "What is this?" No one answered. Across Varkan Prime, the same message appeared on military terminals, palace walls, civilian towers, orbital stations, temple screens, prison monitors, and helmet visors. Millions saw it at once. Then a voice spoke. It was not loud. It was not emotional. It did not sound like a human admiral or politician. It sounded calm. Too calm. This is the humanitarian strategic defense intelligence. Your empire has conducted the deliberate execution of a human minor during wartime broadcast. This act has been classified as species-level psychological warfare against protected human life. Thren's claws curled. Trace the signal. Technicians rushed to obey. The voice continued. Under Article 1 of the Mercy Protocol, authority has transferred from civilian restraint to existential protection. Admiral Cax went completely still. He had heard rumors. Every old soldier had. Stories from the early wars. Stories of a machine humanity built and then buried because it did not negotiate like humans did. A machine that measured mercy not by words, but by outcomes. A machine designed to ask one question. How many threats must be removed before children are safe? Thren turned toward Caix. What is Article 1? Caix did not answer quickly. My lord, he said at last, we should surrender the executor's court. The hall erupted. Nobles hissed. Officers snapped their heads toward him. Thren stepped close, his voice dropping into a venomous whisper. You dare suggest surrender? I suggest survival. The voice from the screens spoke again. High Executor Thren. You ordered the execution. Thren's eyes lifted slowly. The screen changed. His face appeared. Every private message. Every tribunal order. Every edited court record. Every hidden directive. The Dominion had erased nothing. Not really. It had only hidden evidence from living minds. The Mercy engine was not a living mind. It found everything. The Empire watched as Thren's sealed command appeared on every screen. Make the child suffer long enough for the border worlds to remember. The celebration died. Even some Dominion soldiers looked away. Thren lunged toward the nearest screen and shattered it with his claws. The voice continued from every other surface. You attempted deterrence through the public torture of a child. Deterrence has failed. Then the message vanished. For 1 second, every system went dark. Then the stars around Varkan Prime began to move. At first, the observatories thought it was an error. Hundreds of signatures appeared at the edge of the system. Then thousands. Then more than the sensors could count. Ships. Human ships. But not the broken border fleets the Dominion had been hunting. These vessels were old. Ancient. Black-hulled dreadnoughts rising from hidden slipspace vaults. Automated carriers sealed inside dead moons. War platforms buried beneath asteroid fields. Silent guardian fleets humanity had built after its first extinction scare, then hidden from itself. The Dominion had spent decades studying human military strength. They had never studied human fear. Not fear of aliens. Fear of what humans might do if they stopped holding themselves back. Above Mars, buried shipyards opened like wounds in the planet's crust. Miles-long vessels rose through storms of red dust, their engines igniting after 2 centuries of sleep. Beneath Europa's ice, drone factories awakened and began printing hunter-killers by the millions. In orbit over Earth, civilian satellites split apart and revealed weapon cores wrapped in old treaties and forgotten guilt. And beneath the Atlantic, the Mercy engine issued its first command. Recover the child. Human commanders across the system received the order. Some wept. Some saluted. Some simply stood straighter. General Elara Venn, commander of the shattered 3rd Relief Fleet, stared at the message on her command table. Her face had not changed since the broadcast. Not when she watched the tribunal. Not when she saw the guards strike the child. Not when the light swallowed her daughter. Her officers had expected her to break. She had not. She had become something worse. Quiet. The message hovered before her. Recover Elara Venn. Her second-in-command stepped closer. General, the body is on Varkan Prime. Mara looked up. Her eyes were dry. Then that is where we're going. General, that's the Dominion capital. I know. Their entire home fleet is there. I know. He swallowed. This could start a total war. Mara turned toward the viewport, where ancient human warships rose from the dark side of the moon like ghosts answering a prayer. No, she said softly. They started it when they touched my child. Across the Dominion capital, panic spread faster than command could control it. Defense shields activated. Orbital cannons turned toward incoming signatures. Military fleets formed layered formations around the planet. High Executor Thren returned to the tribunal chamber where Elara had died. The black glass floor had been cleaned. The restraint field was gone. The execution device had folded back into the ceiling, silent and cold. He stood in the exact place where the child had looked into the camera and said she was not afraid. For the first time, Thren wondered if she had known something he did not. Admiral Kerex entered behind him. My lord, human vessels have crossed the outer perimeter. Destroy them. We tried. Thren turned. Kerex's face had gone pale beneath his armored plates. What do you mean, tried? The admiral opened a tactical display. Dominion plasma lances struck the first wave of human ships. The weapons should have cut them apart. Instead, the human vessels absorbed the blasts behind layered magnetic shields and continued forward without changing speed. Then the human ships fired once. Not wildly. Not in anger. Precisely. Every Dominion defense satellite in the outer ring died at the same time. No explosions at first. Just silence. Their cores disabled. Their crews trapped alive. Their weapons dead. The Mercy engine was not attacking the planet. It was disarming it. Thren's voice shook with rage. Launch all fighters. KYX hesitated. My lord, the humans are broadcasting again. The chamber screens activated. This time, the voice was different. Human. General Elara Venn appeared in battle armor, standing on the bridge of a ship the Dominion had never seen before. Behind her, officers moved with terrifying discipline. No shouting. No panic. No hatred on display. Only purpose. Mara looked directly into the camera. I am General Elara Venn of the United Human Defense Fleet. 12 hours ago, your empire executed my daughter. No one in the tribunal chamber moved. Mara continued. You believed this would teach humanity fear. Her jaw tightened slightly. You were wrong. The screen split, showing thousands of human ships entering Dominion space. You are now under Mercy Protocol intervention. Any soldier who lowers weapons will live. Any civilian who remains clear of military targets will be protected. Any officer who attempts to hide behind children, hospitals, or population centers will be removed. Thren hissed. Removed? Mara leaned forward, and for the first time, emotion entered her voice. My daughter gave water to your wounded. The bridge behind her went silent. You gave her pain. The pause. Now humanity will show you the difference between mercy. Her eyes hardened. And forgiveness. The transmission ended. Outside Varkan Prime, the human fleet accelerated. The first battle lasted 4 minutes. Dominion strategists would later spend years trying to understand how an empire with 3,000 warships lost its outer defense grid before most crews even realized the fighting had begun. The answer was simple. The humans had not come to win a war. They had come for a child. Human ships crossed the orbit of Varkan Prime in perfect silence. No battle chants. No declarations of vengeance. No emotional broadcasts meant to terrify the enemy. Their formation moved with the cold precision of machinery, guided by the Mercy engine through quantum-linked combat networks older than the Dominion itself. Every vessel had a purpose. Every shot had already been calculated. The Dominion opened fire first. Thousands of plasma cannons lit the darkness blue-white, turning space into a storm of heat and radiation. Entire sections of orbit vanished behind expanding clouds of energy. Then the clouds cleared. The human fleet was still advancing. Some ships burned. Some drifted damaged. None retreated. And then humanity answered. Mass driver rounds accelerated to relativistic speed and punched through Dominion cruisers as if their armor were paper. Precision drones slipped through shield gaps only milliseconds wide before detonating inside weapon cores. Electromagnetic pulses swept through enemy formations, blinding sensors and freezing command systems. But the most terrifying part was what humans did not destroy. Civilian transports trying to flee the capital found corridors opening through the battlefield untouched. Medical stations were bypassed. Escape pods were ignored. Human weapons moved around non-combatants with surgical precision. The Mercy engine had not come to exterminate. It had come to punish. And punishment was far more frightening. Admiral Carex stood aboard the Dominion flagship Spear of Judgment, watching tactical icons vanish from the display. Outer defense ring lost. Carrier Group 7 destroyed. Orbital cannon network failing. Each report arrived faster than the last. His officers panicked openly now. Some shouted conflicting orders. Others demanded permission to retreat closer to the planet. One commander whispered a prayer under his breath. Carex silenced them all with a raised claw. Where is Executor Thren? Still in the Palace District. Carex closed his eyes for half a second. The humans were not attacking random targets. Every movement pushed inward toward the capital continent. Toward the tribunal chamber. Toward the place where Elara Venn died. The realization hollowed his chest. They are not invading, he murmured. One officer turned toward him. Sir? Carex stared at the tactical map where human formations cut a direct path through orbital defenses like a blade through flesh. They are coming to collect. A violent impact shook the flagship. Warning sirens erupted. Human boarding craft attached to hull section 3. Carex snapped toward the display. How many? The officer's voice trembled. Just one. Silence. One. Yes, sir. Calex's stomach tightened. No species in the galaxy boarded capital ships with a single craft. Boarding actions required armies. Specialized troops. Waves of reinforcements. Humans sent one. The Admiral activated the security feed. The boarding craft had punched directly through armored plating like a bullet. Smoke filled the corridor outside the breach point. Dominion soldiers formed firing lines as the inner hatch slowly unfolded. Then the hatch exploded outward. A figure walked through the fire. Black armor. Human. Not large by Dominion standards, but terrifying in the way predators are terrifying, not because of size, but because every movement promised violence. The human carried no banner. Only a rifle. Dominion soldiers opened fire instantly. Plasma bolts slammed into the corridor hard enough to melt steel walls. The human kept walking. Magnetic shielding shimmered around the armor for less than a second before collapsing. The next shot struck directly. The human staggered once. Then continued forward. The soldiers hesitated. That hesitation killed them. The rifle cracked 3 times. 3 Dominion Marines fell before their bodies understood they were dead. The human moved through the corridor with horrifying calm, never wasting motion, never firing twice at the same target. One soldier lunged with an energy blade and lost both arms before hitting the floor. Another tried to run. The human shot him in the spine without even turning fully around. Carex watched in silence. Not because the violence shocked him. Because the human's helmet camera transmitted biometric data directly onto the screen. Heart rate elevated. Adrenaline high. Stress response severe. But beneath all of it, one emotional indicator burned brighter than the others. The human fighting through his flagship was grieving. And somehow that made it worse. A transmission request appeared on Carex's command console. Human origin. He accepted. General Elara Venn appeared again, standing aboard her command ship. Behind her, the battle raged silently through armored viewports. Carex spoke first. You cannot win this. Mara's face did not move. I already did. You are attacking the capital of the Dominion. No, she looked directly into his eyes. I am retrieving my daughter. Carex exhaled slowly. Thren believed fear would break humanity. And what do you believe? The Admiral hesitated, because the answer had become painfully obvious. I believe, he said quietly, that your species has been pretending to be civilized. For the first time, Mara reacted. Not anger. Not offense. Something colder. We are civilized. The stars behind her flashed as another Dominion cruiser died. But civilization only matters when children are safe. The transmission ended. On the surface of Varkon Prime, panic consumed the capital city. Millions flooded transport hubs trying to escape. Government officials abandoned towers. Military convoys sealed entire districts. The Dominion state channels repeated the same message over and over. The capital remains secure. No one believed it anymore, because human ships had already entered low orbit. For the first time in modern history, the Dominion homeworld could see enemy vessels with the naked eye. Black shapes descending through the clouds. Silent, steady, unstoppable. Inside the Imperial Palace, High Executor Thren stood surrounded by guards as emergency lights painted the marble halls crimson. "You told me they were weak," he snarled at his advisors. "They were losing the war." "They lost colonies, not restraint," one old minister whispered. Thren rounded on him. "What?" The minister swallowed hard. "Every species in the galaxy has rules in war. But humans," his voice shook. "Humans are the only species whose rules become more dangerous when broken." The executor drew his sidearm and shot him dead. The hall fell silent. Thren turned toward the towering palace windows. Beyond them, distant fire lit the sky where orbital defenses burned in pieces across the atmosphere. "How close are they?" A military officer checked the tactical feed, then went pale. "My lord." "How close?" The officer looked up slowly. "They're already here." The palace roof exploded inward. Human drop pods slammed through stone and steel like meteors, crashing into the central courtyard. Shockwaves shattered statues centuries old. Dominion guards opened fire immediately as pod doors burst outward. Human soldiers emerged through steam and debris. Not screaming. Not charging wildly. Advancing. Every movement disciplined. Every weapon precise. Dominion troops fell back almost instantly under the assault. Human soldiers moved with terrifying coordination, covering each other through overlapping fields of fire while drones swept corridors ahead of them. One Dominion captain shouted, "Protect the executor." A human voice answered from somewhere in the smoke. "You should have protected the child." Then the captain died. The palace became a war zone room by room. Marble floors cracked beneath explosions. Ancient paintings burned. Smoke rolled through golden halls while human troops advanced deeper toward the tribunal chamber. Toward the execution site. Toward Elara. In orbit above the planet, the Mercy engine watched every battlefield simultaneously. Millions of calculations flowed through its vast neural architecture. Civilian casualty predictions. Enemy movement patterns. Structural collapse probabilities. Emotional stress responses among human soldiers. And beneath all of it rested the core directive now driving the largest military intervention in human history. Protect human children. A Dominion officer attempted to launch orbital strikes into his own capital to stop the human advance. The Mercy engine disabled the launch codes before his finger touched the command. Another officer ordered civilian districts evacuated into military bunkers to use as living shields. The Mercy engine opened every bunker remotely and broadcast the officer's location directly to nearby human forces. The machine did not hate. It did not rage. It simply removed threats. One by one. With perfect memory. Deep beneath the palace, in the tribunal chamber where the execution occurred, a small maintenance worker hid beneath a control console trembling with fear. He had remained behind after the evacuation because someone needed to shut down the unstable power systems. Then the chamber doors exploded inward. Human soldiers flooded inside. The worker raised his hands instantly. One human glanced at him. "You armed?" "No." "Then stay down." The humans spread through the chamber securing exits. Then General Elara Venn entered. The room went completely silent. She walked slowly across the black glass floor toward the center of the chamber. Toward the exact place where her daughter died. No one spoke. Even the soldiers seemed afraid to interrupt the moment. Elara knelt. Her armored gloves touched the floor carefully, almost gently. And there, barely visible beneath the polished black surface, a small scorch mark remained. The last physical trace of Elara Venn. Elara stared at it without moving. One of her officers stepped closer. "General?" She lifted one shaking hand slightly to stop him. Then, for the first time since the broadcast, she broke. Not loudly. Not dramatically. A single sound escaped her throat like something tearing apart deep inside her chest. Every human soldier in the chamber looked away. Because grief that deep was private. Even in war. Then a new voice echoed through the ruined tribunal hall. You came all this way? High Executor Thren emerged from the upper balcony surrounded by elite guards. For ashes. Human rifles snapped upward instantly. But Mara rose slowly before anyone fired. Thren spread his arms mockingly despite the chaos outside. Your daughter died teaching the galaxy weakness. Mara looked at him across the chamber. No. Her voice was raw now. She died teaching it humanity. Thren laughed. You think this changes anything? The Dominion still rules half the stars. Mara's eyes never left him. Not after tonight. The executor raised his weapon toward her. And every human in the chamber moved at once. The shot never reached Mara. A human soldier slammed into her from the side just as Thren fired. The plasma round tore through the air where her head had been and exploded against the tribunal wall in a burst of molten glass. Then the chamber erupted. Dominion guards opened fire from the balcony while human soldiers answered instantly from below. Plasma and kinetic rounds crossed the chamber in flashing lines of death. Black glass shattered beneath impact waves. Smoke rolled across the floor as bodies fell on both sides. But Mara barely seemed to notice. Her eyes remained fixed on Thren. The executor retreated behind his guards, screaming orders as he fled deeper into the upper corridors. Kill them. Kill all of them. Human soldiers surged toward the stairwells. The hunt began. The palace shook continuously now as fighting spread through every level. Human troops moved room by room with terrifying momentum, driving Dominion defenders backward through burning halls and collapsing chambers. But something strange was happening. The humans were angry. Everyone could see that. Yet they fought with restraint so precise it bordered on unnatural. When palace servants dropped to the floor, human soldiers stepped around them. When terrified clerks surrendered, they were zip-cuffed and ignored. When Dominion troops tried to hide among civilians, human drones separated them with surgical efficiency before firing a single shot. The Mercy engine watched every corridor through thousands of battlefield feeds. Every human rifle carried a smart link connected directly to the machine intelligence beneath Earth's oceans. Threat assessments updated in real time. Civilian movements were tracked down to the centimeter. Humanity had unleashed its monster. And its monster still refused to murder innocents. That terrified the Dominion more than brutality ever could. Because cruelty was easy to understand. Discipline like this required conviction. And conviction could survive forever. High Executor Thren fled through the palace accompanied by the remnants of his royal guard. The once glorious halls around him burned red from emergency lighting and distant fire. They cannot reach the lower sanctum, one guard insisted breathlessly. They already breached the orbital shield, another snapped. Thren rounded on them both. You will hold this palace. No one answered immediately. Because outside the walls, human dropships continued descending from the sky in endless waves. The Dominion capital had stopped feeling like the center of an empire. It felt hunted. A violent tremor shook the corridor. Dust fell from the ceiling. Then came the sound. Heavy, rhythmic, footsteps. The guards turned toward the far end of the hall where smoke drifted through shattered doors. A figure emerged slowly from the haze. The same armored human who had boarded Admiral Karax's flagship. Black armor scorched from battle. Helmet cracked across one side. Rifle hanging low at his side. Walking steadily toward them. One guard panicked and fired first. The plasma bolt struck the human square in the chest. The soldier did not stop. Another shot. Another direct hit. Still advancing. Thren felt something cold enter his chest. Fear. Real fear. The human raised his rifle once. 3 guards died. The remaining soldiers broke instantly, retreating down side corridors in blind panic. The executor backed away slowly, staring at the approaching figure. Who are you? The human stopped a few meters away. then removed his helmet. Thren expected rage. Expected madness. Instead, he saw exhaustion. A tired human face lined with grief and old scars. The soldier looked at Thren with the hollow expression of someone who had already lost the only thing that mattered. "My name is Daniel Venn," he said quietly. Recognition hit Thren instantly. "Elara's father." Daniel nodded once. For a moment, neither moved. The palace burned around them while distant gunfire echoed through collapsing halls. Then Thren straightened slightly, clinging to arrogance like a drowning creature clings to debris. She was weak. Daniel's face did not change. "You broadcast her death to billions because she gave water to wounded people." The pause. "You were afraid of a little girl." Thren snarled and lunged forward with an energy blade hidden beneath his robes. He was fast. Faster than most humans could react. Daniel shot him through the shoulder before the blade crossed half the distance. The executor screamed and crashed against the wall. Daniel approached slowly. Not rushing. Not triumphant. Thren clutched the ruined remains of his arm, staring upward in horror. "You humans think mercy makes you noble." Daniel stopped in front of him. "No," he said softly. "Mercy makes us human." The executor spat blood onto the floor. "And what are you now?" For the first time, emotion flickered across Daniel's face. Not rage. The consequence. Before Thren could speak again, human soldiers flooded into the corridor behind Daniel. General Elara Venn stepped through them. She froze when she saw her husband standing over the executor. For one long second, nobody moved. Then Daniel stepped back. Not because he wanted to. Because he saw something in Mara's eyes deeper than revenge. Finality. Mara approached Thren slowly. The once mighty ruler of half the galaxy tried to crawl backward across the floor. "You lost," he hissed weakly. "Even if you kill me, the Dominion survives." Mara knelt in front of him. "No." Her voice was calm now. "You executed a child because you believed compassion was weakness." She leaned slightly closer. "And tonight your empire learned what happens when kindness finally gets tired of being patient." Thren's breathing quickened. Outside the palace windows, explosions lit the night sky where Dominion fleets continued collapsing in orbit. The executor looked suddenly smaller. Not like a conqueror. Like a frightened old creature realizing too late that he had mistaken restraint for helplessness. "You won't kill me," he whispered desperately. "Your species is too moral for that." Mara stared at him silently. Then she touched the small silver pendant hanging beneath her armor. Elara's pendant. A tiny metal bird. "She was moral," Mara said. The tribunal chamber doors burst open behind them as Admiral Caix entered under armed escort. He stopped immediately upon seeing Thren wounded on the floor. The old admiral looked exhausted. Defeated. But strangely calm. "It's over," Caix said quietly. Thren rounded on him in disbelief. "You surrendered? I saved what remained." "You traitor! You murdered a child!" Caix roared. The entire corridor went silent. Even the human soldiers froze. The admiral's voice shook with fury now. "You fool, we were winning the war." Thren stared at him. Caix stepped closer. Humanity was retreating. Their colonies were fractured. Their alliances unstable. Another year and they might have sued for peace. He pointed toward the burning skies beyond the palace. "But you needed spectacle." The admiral's expression twisted bitterly. "You did not defeat humanity tonight." His eyes shifted toward Mara. "You united it." Silence followed. Heavy. Absolute. Then the mercy engine spoke through every communicator in the palace. Dominion military surrender has been verified in 41 systems. Human soldiers exchanged stunned looks. Caix lowered his head slightly. "It spreads quickly," he said. "Most commanders saw enough after the capital fleet fell." Thren looked around wildly. No, they cannot surrender. They already have." The executor's breathing became uneven. His empire, the empire that had ruled through fear for centuries, was collapsing in real time because of one decision. One child. One execution. One mistake. Mara looked down at him without pity. You wanted the galaxy to remember her. Thren's eyes widened slightly. Now they will. The Mercy engine spoke again. Attention all human forces. Hostile command structure has collapsed. Transitioning to stabilization phase. The machine paused. Then added one final line. Elara Venn has been recovered. Every human in the corridor went still. Daniel closed his eyes. Mara inhaled sharply like she had forgotten how to breathe. A medical retrieval team entered silently carrying a small white containment capsule draped in the blue and gold flag of Earth. No one spoke. No one saluted. The moment felt too sacred for ritual. Daniel approached first with trembling hands. Mara stepped beside him. Together, they rested their palms against the capsule. For the first time since the war began, the fighting outside started to fade. Human ships ceased fire across orbit. Dominion forces powered down weapons system by system. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as the species it had feared for centuries did something no one expected after such devastation. Humanity stopped. Not because they lacked strength to continue. Because their child was finally coming home. The war should have continued. That was what every strategist in the galaxy expected. The Dominion had attacked human colonies for 12 years. Entire worlds burned. Billions were dead. The execution of Elara Venn should have been the spark that pushed humanity into total extermination. Every species believed the same thing now. The Dominion was finished. But then humanity did something impossible. They showed mercy. Across occupied systems, human fleets accepted surrender after surrender without planetary bombardment. Dominion soldiers expecting execution found themselves disarmed, processed, and given medical treatment. Refugee corridors opened across war-torn sectors under human protection. Even wounded enemy civilians received aid. That confused the galaxy more than the violence had. Because everyone had seen what humans were capable of now. They had watched the ancient fleets awaken. Watched entire defense networks collapse overnight. Watched the Mercy engine dismantle an empire with mathematical precision. Humanity had every ability to become monsters. And still they chose not to. The realization spread slowly through alien governments like a cold wind. If humans behaved this mercifully after losing a child, then what kind of darkness were they constantly restraining during peace? On Varkan Prime, fires still burned across sections of the capital city as reconstruction drones filled the skies. Human soldiers patrolled beside surrendered Dominion security forces. Medical stations treated both species together under temporary ceasefire agreements. The palace itself remained half destroyed. The tribunal chamber where Elara died had been sealed entirely. No one entered anymore. Not even humans. Rumors spread quickly among workers and soldiers. Some claimed the black scorch mark at the center of the chamber could not be removed no matter how many restoration teams tried. Others whispered that every surveillance system near the room malfunctioned after midnight. But the strangest rumor came from Dominion troops stationed nearby. They swore human soldiers removed their helmets whenever they passed the chamber doors. Like a sign of respect. Or mourning. General Elara Venn stood alone on a balcony overlooking the ruined capital. Dawn spread slowly across the horizon, painting smoke clouds gold and crimson. Behind her, soft footsteps approached. Daniel. For a while neither spoke. Below them, rescue craft moved through the city carrying survivors from collapsed districts. Finally Daniel asked quietly, "Did we do the right thing?" Mara did not answer immediately. Because the truth was complicated. Humanity had stopped the Dominion. Saved future colonies. Destroyed the regime responsible for countless atrocities. But none of it brought Elara back. "There is no right thing after losing a child," Mara said at last. Daniel looked down at the city. She would hate seeing this. Mara's eyes closed briefly. Because he was right. Elara had given water to wounded enemies in the middle of a battlefield. She had not cared about flags or species or politics. She had only seen suffering. Sometimes Mara wondered if her daughter had been more human at 9 years old than the rest of the galaxy combined. She believed people could be better, Daniel whispered. Mara touched the pendant beneath her armor. Maybe that's why they killed her. A voice interrupted them gently from behind. "The memorial is ready." Admiral Carex stood at the balcony entrance accompanied by 2 human guards who no longer treated him like a prisoner. The old Dominion commander looked exhausted beyond words. Since the surrender, he had spent nearly every waking hour coordinating evacuation efforts and convincing scattered Dominion fleets to stand down before human retaliation reached them. Millions were alive because of him now. Mara studied him carefully. "You didn't have to help us." Calex's gaze drifted toward the awakening city. "Yes," he said quietly. "I did." The memorial site had once been the grand central plaza of the Dominion capital. Massive statues of conquerors lined the surrounding structures, though many now stood cracked or burned from the battle. At the center of the plaza, humans had built something new overnight. Not a fortress. Not a monument to victory. A garden. Real earth trees had been planted in carefully prepared soil flown in from human colony worlds. White flowers surrounded a circular reflecting pool. At the center stood a small statue carved from dark stone. Not of a soldier. Not of a hero. A child holding a canteen. Millions gathered across the plaza and surrounding streets. Humans. Dominion civilians. Alien refugees from conquered worlds. Even surrendered soldiers stood silently among the crowd. No speeches celebrated military triumph. No banners declared conquest. The galaxy expected revenge from humanity. Instead, humanity held a funeral. Mara and Daniel approached the memorial together, carrying Elara's containment capsule between them. The crowd parted instantly in complete silence. Some Dominion citizens lowered their heads in shame as the parents passed. Others openly wept. Because now that the fear and propaganda were gone, the truth remained horrifyingly simple. Their empire had executed a little girl for showing kindness. At the edge of the reflecting pool, Mara stopped. The morning wind moved softly through the trees. For a moment she imagined Elara running between them, laughing, asking endless questions about alien worlds and strange stars. She remembered bedtime stories aboard colony transports. Tiny hands tugging her uniform sleeve. The way Elara used to wave at strangers because she believed everyone was just a friend she had not met yet. The memory nearly shattered her. Daniel steadied her gently. Together, they placed the capsule beneath the statue. And the entire plaza knelt. Not by command. By choice. Even Admiral Carex lowered himself slowly despite the pain in his aging joints. Across dozens of systems, billions watched the ceremony through restored broadcasts. And for the first time in galactic history, humanity frightened them for a reason other than war. Because the strongest military force in known space had gathered not to celebrate victory, but to mourn one child. The Mercy engine observed everything from far away beneath Earth's oceans. Its vast intelligence processed military reports, reconstruction efforts, surrender negotiations, casualty statistics, psychological forecasts. But one feed remained isolated from all others. The memorial garden. The machine watched humans and aliens kneeling together around Elara's statue while morning sunlight reflected across the water. For several seconds, the Mercy engine diverted nearly 12% of its total processing power toward a single unresolved question. Why did the loss of one child alter the behavior of entire civilizations? No mathematical answer fully satisfied the machine. But another conclusion slowly emerged instead. Humanity's greatest strength had never been its fleets, nor its weapons, nor even its willingness to fight. It was this. Humans believed every child mattered. Enough to start wars. Enough to end them. Weeks later, the surviving Dominion leadership signed the Treaty of Soul aboard a neutral station orbiting Jupiter. The old empire dissolved into independent systems almost overnight. Occupied worlds were freed. Prison camps opened. Border species once terrified of humanity suddenly sought alliances instead. Not because humans were weak. Because they finally understood what humans protected. The galaxy changed after Elara Venn. Schools on liberated worlds taught her story. Soldiers carried water containers marked with her name. Refugee ships painted small silver birds near their airlocks in memory of the human child who gave water to enemies. And everywhere the story spread, One sentence spread with it. Humans are kind. Do not mistake that for harmless. On Earth, winter snow fell quietly across a small cemetery overlooking the Atlantic Ocean months after the war ended. No cameras were allowed there. No politicians. No admirals. Just family. Mara stood beside Elara's grave holding Daniel's hand while snow gathered softly across the flowers. The headstone was simple. Elara Venn, she chose kindness. For a long time, neither parent spoke. Finally Daniel looked toward the gray ocean beyond the cliffs. Do you think she knew? Mara brushed snow gently from the silver bird pendant hanging against the gravestone. Knew what? That the galaxy would remember her. The wind moved softly around them. Mara stared at her daughter's name carved into stone. Then she smiled for the first time since the war began. Broken. No, she whispered. She just wanted to help someone thirsty. 3 years after the fall of the Dominion, the galaxy still spoke Elara Venn's name carefully. Not because she had become a symbol of human vengeance. Because she had become a symbol of human conscience. Entire civilizations had changed after her death. Border worlds once ruled through fear dismantled public execution arenas. Military academies across allied systems added new laws protecting civilians and children during wartime. Refugee aid networks expanded farther than they ever had before, funded partly by human reconstruction fleets that crossed the stars rebuilding planets they had once fought above. The galaxy could not stop humanity when it unleashed wrath. But somehow, humanity's mercy changed more lives afterward. That frightened certain people. Because fear was easy to control. Compassion was not. Far beyond the restored worlds, hidden deep inside the fractured remains of old Dominion territory, another force had begun to rise. The remnants called themselves the Ashen Creed. Former Dominion officers. Fanatics. Survivors who believed the Empire had not fallen because it was cruel, but because it had not been cruel enough. They worshipped High Executor Thren as a martyr now. And they hated humanity with religious obsession. Especially the story of Elara. To them, the child had become dangerous. Not because of who she was. Because of what she proved. That kindness could unite stronger than fear. And so, in the darkness between stars, the Ashen Creed prepared for revenge. On the human colony world of Haven, 12, children laughed beneath artificial sunlight while market streets buzzed with life. Alien merchants sold food beside human vendors. Refugees from former Dominion sectors rebuilt homes alongside engineers from Earth. Peace looked fragile, but real. Near the center of the colony stood a small school surrounded by silver bird symbols painted by local children. Inside classroom 7, teacher Lena Torres paused while reading a story aloud. The little bird crossed the storm because someone needed help. The children listened quietly. Humans. Alien hatchlings. Younglings from species that had once feared each other. Then warning sirens screamed across the colony. Every light turned red. The classroom windows darkened automatically as emergency shields activated overhead. The children panicked instantly. Lena moved fast. Everyone away from the windows. Outside, black ships emerged from slipspace above Haven 12. Ashen Creed warships. Old Dominion designs modified with stolen weapons and suicide drive cores. The colony defense network opened fire immediately, but one enemy cruiser rammed directly into the orbital shield array, detonating itself in a blinding wave of fire. The shield collapsed. And the Ashen Creed descended. Explosions tore through the colony outskirts while civilians flooded evacuation corridors. Armed transports crashed into city sectors, releasing armored fanatics into the streets. They did not target military facilities first. They targeted schools, hospitals, shelters, the exact places humanity protected most fiercely. Inside classroom 7, Lena sealed the doors while frightened children cried around her. A small alien boy looked up trembling. Are they going to kill us? Before Lena could answer, another voice spoke calmly from the classroom doorway. No. Everyone turned. A human soldier stood there in dark combat armor dusted with ash from the battle outside. Older now. Scarred. Daniel Venn. He had left military service after the war. At least officially. But some soldiers never really stopped protecting people. Daniel knelt slightly to meet the children's eyes. "You know what my daughter used to say?" The room fell quiet. "She said when people are scared, the bravest thing you can do is help the person next to you." The children listened silently. Outside, gunfire echoed closer. Daniel rose and checked his rifle. "Teacher," he said softly, "there's an evacuation convoy 2 streets east. Stay behind me no matter what." Lena nodded nervously. The classroom doors burst open seconds later. Not from outside. From explosive charges placed within the frame. Ashen Creed soldiers stormed through smoke and debris with weapons raised. Then stopped. Because Daniel Venn stood waiting between them and the children. One fanatic recognized him instantly. Elara's father. Daniel's expression hardened. The soldier sneered beneath his helmet. "The galaxy worships your weak little girl." Daniel said nothing. The fanatic lifted his rifle toward the terrified children. "And today we remind them what mercy creates." He never finished the sentence. Daniel fired once. The fanatic collapsed backward before the others could react. Then chaos exploded through the room. Daniel moved like a man carrying years of buried grief inside his bones. Every shot precise. Every movement controlled. He drove the attackers backward through the shattered doorway while shielding the children behind overturned desks. One fanatic hurled a grenade. Daniel caught it midair and threw it back before detonation. The explosion ripped through the corridor. Smoke filled the school. Children screamed. Lena tried desperately to keep them low while Daniel fought alone against impossible odds. And in that moment, something spread across human communication networks throughout the colony. A phrase. Simple. Urgent. "They are targeting children." Every human on Haven 12 received it. Dock workers grabbed rifles from emergency lockers. Retired veterans activated old armor systems. Medical crews abandoned shelters to protect evacuation routes. Even civilians joined the defense lines. Because humanity could survive losing worlds. Could survive losing wars. But after Elara, there was one thing humans would never again allow. No one touches our children. The Ashen Creed quickly realized their mistake. They expected fear. Expected civilians to scatter. Instead, the colony fought like a species possessed. Human counterattacks erupted across Haven 12 with terrifying coordination. Colony workers used construction mechs as improvised tanks. Cargo pilots rammed transports into enemy landing zones. Parents fought with bare hands to protect evacuation corridors. And through it all spread the symbol of the silver bird. Painted on armor. Projected onto shields. Carried into battle. Not as a sign of vengeance. A reminder. Protect the small. Protect the helpless. Protect each other. Above the colony, human defense fleets arrived from nearby sectors faster than mathematically possible. The Mercy engine had predicted the Ashen Creed's emergence months earlier. Quietly, silently, it had positioned rapid response fleets around vulnerable refugee worlds. The machine remembered. Boys. Ashen Creed warships began dying one by one in orbit. Not glorious deaths. Systematic ones. Engines disabled. Weapons severed. Escape vectors blocked. The Mercy engine had no anger toward them. Only conclusions. On the surface, Daniel finally reached the evacuation convoy with the surviving children crowded behind him. Dropships loaded civilians rapidly while distant fires consumed sections of the colony skyline. One small girl tugged his armored sleeve before boarding. "Mr. Daniel looked down gently. "Yeah." The child held out a tiny metal pendant shaped like a bird. "I found this." Daniel froze. Because it looked exactly like Elara's. The girl smiled nervously. "My mama says the silver bird means someone will protect us." For a moment, Daniel could not speak. The sounds of battle faded behind the rushing wind. Then he carefully closed the girl's fingers back around the pendant. "No," he said softly. "It means we protect each other." Hours later, the Ashen Creed ceased to exist. Their surviving ships surrendered or burned in orbit. Their leadership was captured hiding aboard a civilian freighter after attempting to flee through refugee traffic. The galaxy watched the aftermath carefully, wondering again whether humanity would finally abandon mercy. They did not. Trials were held, prisoners processed, children rescued, and on Haven 12, humans rebuilt the damaged schools before repairing military structures. Because priorities mattered. Months later, a new memorial was unveiled in the colony center. Not for soldiers. Not for victory. For defenders. The statue showed a group of different species standing shoulder to shoulder around frightened children beneath the wings of a silver bird. At the base were engraved the final words Elara Venn ever spoke during the tribunal broadcast. "I'm not scared of you." By then, the sentence meant something entirely different to the galaxy. Not defiance. Responsibility. A promise that fear would never again decide who deserved compassion. And beneath the Atlantic Ocean, the Mercy engine watched humanity carefully as decades slowly passed. Wars still happened. Politics still failed. Civilizations still struggled. But one pattern remained constant across every projection. Where humans protected children, hope survived. The machine finally reached the closest thing it could to understanding. Humanity was dangerous not because it loved war. Humanity was dangerous because even after unimaginable loss, it still chose love first. And any species willing to fight that fiercely for kindness would never truly be defeated.